Hey guys, Justin here again with the Caddis Fly Shop on behalf of the Oregon Fly Fishing Blog. Today I'm going to be continuing with the Jig Bomb series of flies. I'm going to be tying up a little hare's ear jig bomb with a little CDC collar. Great fly, kind of year round on the Mackenzie with Willamette, and adjust sizes anywhere that you're fishing for trout, and it's an awesome fly. Anyway, let's get going here and yeah, enjoy. All right, so we are tying this today on a, sorry, where am I? Got a lot of stuff here on the table. Umpqua XC400 BL size 12, along with this 4mm jig bomb tungsten bead, and this is that kind of teardrop. Hareline also does these. They're called the Jig 2.0 beads. Kind of a cool, tungsten bead. Doesn't have that slot in it for the jig hooks, but they're a little bit heavier. Anyway, I put about 6 or 7 wraps of 015 lead wire behind this bead just to kind of seat it in place. I'm starting with my 70 denier fluorescent fire orange thread. Just gonna kind of lock all this stuff in place here. Okay, and I'm just gonna put a little bit of Zap-A-Gap brush on just right behind this bead, just for durability. These things can kind of, talked about it in the last video with the PCP, but since all this weight is kind of concentrated up at the top end of this bead, if you don't really seat these things in place, this bead will kind of wiggle around and push your materials back a little bit. So more super glue is your friend, just to really lock that stuff in there. So just going back around the bend of the hook. This is size 12, like I said, and you can adjust the size for wherever you're fishing really with these things. And I'm doing kind of a corresponding thread and Glow Bright floss. I'm going to use this Glow Bright floss for the tag, but you can also adjust the thread and the Glow Bright floss to kind of suit whatever fishing applications you're using these flies in. Purple on purple works really well. Pink on pink works really well. Chartreuse, kind of any hot spot flavor that you like. So I just took about a 4 to 5 inch section of this Glow Bright floss out. I'm gonna double this stuff over. Okay, so I got 2 strands of it there, and then I'm gonna double it back over my thread. So I effectively have 4 strands of this stuff. I'm just gonna tie this in, and you'll remember this from other videos that I've done where I've kind of done the same type of deal. Okay, just wrapping that right to the edge of the bend of the hook, and I'm gonna just take my scissors, trim this off pretty short. That's a perfect little hot tag tail for this fly. And just wrap back up here, get all this material seated in place. Okay. So now I'm gonna just tie in my rib and counter rib. So I'm gonna go gold. This spool kind of went berserk on me, so sorry, but this is gold soft wire, Jesus, in small. You can see what kind of happened here. It just went crazy. So, kind of keep a hold on this stuff when you first get these spools. If you've ever used any kind of copper or metallic wire, just, Anyway, Just tying that wire in place. And then here, I'm just tying in some Flashabou. This is Ice Blue Mirage Blend Flashabou. I'm going to tie in a couple of strands of this stuff because it can kind of, just for a little bit of insurance, you can kind of, it can pop out, you know, if you don't tie it in properly. So I've got 2 strands of this stuff. I'm gonna just tie this in opposite the copper wire, gold wire, excuse me. Okay. And now I am just going with some hare's ear plus dubbing in hare's ear, just natural hare's ear. HET numero uno. Okay, and this is basically just hare's ear dubbing, but with a little bit of antron for some flash. So I'm just gonna dub this onto my thread here. Starting off pretty sparse. Just making a nice, kind of sparse little dubbing noodle. Wrap this forward. A little bit more, and you can tie these things as full or as sparse as you like. Around here where the fish aren't all that spooky and weird about flies, I like to tie them in a little bit heavier, and then you know, as they get chewed up by fish, they will, you know, get kind of sparser and sparser until you're pretty much down to thread and copper wire, and sometimes that's all that you need. So anyway, here we go, just wrapping this back up, building up our taper for this body. Gonna wrap that back. Okay, so now I'm just gonna go Flashabou rib here. I'm gonna wrap this the same way that I was wrapping my my dubbing. Just right back up the body. 4 or 5 wraps. Tie that off. Just gonna kind of pluck that off under tension. Okay, and then I'm gonna wrap this gold wire the opposite way, just to add a little bit more durability to this fly. Again, another 3 to 4 wraps. Oops. So I like to fish this thing, just a little bit of vamping here while I get my thread reset on my bobbin here. I like to fish this thing under a bobber, you know, like under a Mega Prince. But really where these things shine are just under the hopper dropper, kind of our standard setup for the Mackenzie and Willamette. So, you know, tie up a few, give them a shot. They will work. Okay. Sorry, I broke my thread there, so I'm going to just kind of tie over all of this business here. Okay. Just to seat that gold wire in place. I'm gonna cut this just because I can, and I don't want to run the risk of Snapping my thread again. Okay, so this right here is a perfectly fine fishing fly. Fish it, tie it like this. If you've kind of crowded the head and don't want to tie in any more materials, this is perfectly fine. But I am going to add just a little bit of CDC. This Super Select CDC, we've tied with this a bunch of times. This is in khaki. I'm just going to tie this stuff in by the tip here. Seat that in there nicely. I'm going to just strip off some of this under fiber. Oops, that didn't really work. One sec. Super Select CDC khaki. Here we go. Got a nice feather. Strip off this under fur here. Tie it in by the tip. CNF hackle plier, grip that thing, wrap it around. You really only need 1 or 2 wraps of this stuff. That is plenty sufficient. Tie that puppy off there. Give it some nice turns. Lock that CDC stem in place. Trim it off. Again, like I just said, this is a perfectly fine fishing fly. You can end it right there, but I'm going to just add a tiny little bit more hare's ear dubbing, just to kind of make it look a little bit nicer. Okay. Got some trap CDC feather fibers in there. They're talking like 1, 2. That's good. Kind of lock it in there with your thread. Perfect. And now just a little bit of a whip finish. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oops. 5, 6. And I like a little bit more of a hot spot on this, so we're going to go 1, 2, 3. Just like that. Trim this thread off. Okay, so there it is. And you can kind of, take a little dubbing brush and pick this stuff out. But really, what you want is that hot tag, hot collar, a little bit of CDC, a little bit of flash in the body, and as these fish eat this fly, which they will, looks kind of messy, but that's kind of the beauty of a hare's ear fly. As they eat this fly, their teeth will kind of nick this stuff and get it all spiky and nice looking, and it'll just catch fish better and better the more that you fish it. So anyway, there it is, a little jig bomb. Umpqua jig bomb hare's ear nymph. Anyway, tie some up, fish them this spring, this summer, this fall, and enjoy.